Hi friends, welcome to this week's video from Carolina's Cottage. This is Johnny and I think I have a real treat for you guys today. I'm going to be partnering in a collaboration with Myra from Farm Fresh Designs59. Myra suggested we do some things in blue and I've had a peek of her things. They are fabulous. I want to encourage you to watch her video if you haven't seen it yet. I will put a link below. And then here's a few things that I'm doing as well. These things were so easy to make and I'm going to take you step by step through what I did to create each one. This first piece had a very interesting history that some of you may be familiar with. I found this at Goodwill and it's a memento from a Volksmarch in Germany. If you or your family members have ever been in the military and been stationed in Germany or lived in Germany for any other reason, you're probably aware of this very common event that's held there. It's basically a walking event where people gather and socialize on an organized walk. And if you've been on one of these, please leave your experience below in the comments. I think we'll all find it interesting. This piece is pewter and it had quite a bit of damage on it. Whatever emblem had been originally attached to the front side of this was missing and the dried glue was left, so I cleaned that up, removed that, and then I'm giving it a coat of 2-in-1 primer from Paint Couture and 2 coats of Paint Couture's chalk style paint. I'm going to decoupage an image that I found on Pinterest. I'll put a link to that Pinterest pin in the description below. I'll be covering the inner circle of this plate with a piece of paper, and to make sure that I get the circle cut the right size, I am tracing with my fingernail around the creases on the inner circle of this plate. Now, there's probably a scrapbooking tool or a more professional way to do this, but this is a simple way to get this done. I applied a moderately thick layer of decoupage medium to decoupage this paper onto the plate, and I had my first mishap. Although I had heard that things printed on a laser printer were not as likely to bleed when decoupaged, this one did. I think it's because there's just a large amount of ink in this design. There are 2 more steps in this piece. One is painting trim around the edge that will complement the colors in the print. The next step would be to apply antiquing gel before putting the top coat on this piece. And this is just really easy to apply this trim if you're following the grooves in the plate. This paint is Driftwood. It's made by Paint Couture, and I will also be using their antiquing gel in the shade of weathered wood, and I'll put a link below that you can get a 10% discount if you use my affiliate link. This is another piece that was very easy to create and fairly inexpensive as well. I thrifted this picture at Goodwill. I gave it a coat of 2-in-1 primer to help the chalk paint stick, and then I applied 2 coats of Farmhouse linen colored chalk style paint by Paint Couture. I used a couple of stamps from an IOD stamp set, let it dry a couple of hours, and then applied a clear top coat. That's all I did to give this piece a dramatic makeover. When you're using stamps on a curved piece, you want to take a little bit more time and be a little bit more careful. It's good to brace the piece with a couple of rolled up paper towels or something similar to prevent the piece from moving around. And you do want to use both hands to keep this secure with one hand while you are pressing down all the pieces of the stamp with the other. If you find that you get ink on the outer edges of the stamp, you can use a wet wipe to remove that before you stamp it. And usually it takes a few minutes for this ink to completely dry, so you do have a little flexibility there. But you can also go back with a wet wipe and clean up any smears once you've put the stamp on. Now that I have the major elements of the stamps in place on this piece, I'm going to go back and just randomly add some stamps to the edges and to fill in where I think it needs a little bit of extra detail. The first side is completed. I will give this a couple of hours to dry before flipping it over and repeating the same thing on the other side. I'm always amazed at what a clear design these stamps have. I don't sand my new stamps when I get them. I think they look a little bit more crisp if you use them as they are, and I'm always very happy with the result. This piece was also fairly inexpensive to make. I found this at Goodwill. It did need a little repair. I removed the burlap bow on it. I gave it a coat of 2-in-1 primer to prevent any bleed through from the wood or the previous paint products. And then I applied 2 coats of chalk style paint in the color Farmhouse Linen from Paint Couture. I want to use a trim color on the frame that matches this linen color in the background of the print. So I'll be using a Paint Couture paint called Cozy Beige. Outlining trim on frames may look a little difficult or a little tedious, but it's really not. You have the straight edge there to follow. If you get paint over the edge of that, which I did here on every edge that I painted, just go back and wipe that extra paint off. If you need to go back with a little bit more ivory color and put some trim on those edges, it's just a simple thing to do. So don't be afraid of that. I think that adding a contrasting trim on a piece really takes it up a notch and helps it have a more high-end look. I'm not sure that high-end is the right way to describe it since these are hand-painted crafts, but it may just help the piece have a little depth and definition. All I need to do now to finish this piece is just decide on which portion of these prints I want to put in the framed area. I will apply IOD stamps and antiquing gel as I did in the other items, and once I'm done, I will give this a top coat for protection. Now we have a little bit more to go to finish this item, and I have one more after this, but I wanted to remind you to please give this video a thumbs up if you are enjoying it so far. It really helps get my video out to more people on YouTube. Now, I missed a spot on this rose. You can see at the base of the rosebud there, I did not put enough ink there. So just don't be nervous about doing that. You can always use your wet wipe to clean up any mistakes, or the worst that can happen, you paint over that little area and try it again. If you notice on this stamp, I've made a very definite line there where I'm stamping, even though I want this rose to wrap around the edge of the frame. It just looks better to do that. But I have found that it's easier, it works better to come back and add that later, because trying to hold the stamp in place and bend it around the frame usually causes me to blur the stamp because I've moved it. If it's a smaller stamp, I can sometimes get away with bending it around the corner without smearing the image. One more look at these to see which section is going to look best. Once I add the antiquing gel to the frame, it's going to help the frame match the printed piece. I always add a top coat before adding the antiquing gel, so I have a little bit more flexibility with wiping away the antiquing gel. And our final project in this video. I like this piece as is. There's no room in my home for it, and my experience the last few years has been that pieces distressed like this just aren't selling very well. So I'm giving it a makeover similar to what I've done in two other pieces in this video. I'm going to paint it, and on this one I'll use decoupage. I'll also use the antiquing gel and then give it a top coat. This piece is metal and it has a heavy texture on it, almost like a plaster. I'm using a napkin that I purchased on Amazon to decoupage this piece. And if you're ever using a paper napkin, you have a little trouble separating the layers, just use a piece of tape on the back layer, and when you pull on that, it very easily will separate it from the top layer. And I think I got that little tip from Lisa on Our Shabby Cottage. When I'm using a napkin for decoupage, I apply just a little bit thicker amount of decoupage medium because the napkins are so prone to tearing. It took a while for me to decide to paint this mirror. I decoupaged it to match the rest of the piece. I used 2-in-1 primer to help the chalk paint stick to the glass, and then 2 coats of Farmhouse linen paint. After the top coat dried, I applied weathered wood antiquing gel. Okay, here are a few little vignettes with everything from today's video. Don't forget to watch Myra's video from Farm Fresh Designs59. I will link it in the description below. Click on the pop-up at the end of my video to watch more of my videos, or go to my channel and choose other videos to watch. Thank you for watching today. Please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.